Hey there, Gary Parrish. Welcome back. CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball Podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, leaky black. The Eye on College Basketball Podcast, it is presented by Jersey Mike's. A sub above. Matt Norlander here with me. If you're watching on YouTube, you know what to do. To the like button. Shouts to Brandon Davies. And if you haven't yet subscribed to the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel, please also do that while you're here. Let's get into it. And the place to start on this Wednesday morning is the place they call the world's most famous arena, MSG. It's right outside this window, about 1 mile to my left, 20 blocks south of me. Final score, number 12, St. John's 70. Number 11, Marquette 64. Red Storm won again in front of an awesome crowd inside the Garden. So that's 9 straight victories. They're 20-3 overall, 11-1 in the Big East, alone atop the league standings, in position to maybe win the first conference championship since 1992. Auburn story, amazing. What's happening at Duke? Incredible, but pretty high up on the list of the coolest stories in the sport, and possibly approaching the top, I think, is Rick Pitino in year 2 at St. John's, having this Big East program in position to do something it hasn't done in more than 3 decades, after he was essentially exiled from power conference coaching for 6 years. Norlander, at this moment, I think the St. John's story is my favorite story in the sport. How high up on the list of fun stuff happening would it be for you?
I mean, it's about at the top 5 right now. It's approaching that level. If you missed the Tuesday show, please go listen in the pod. Although I was on the wrong mic for the first segment, but right in that realm, today's court report leads on Janai Broom, Cooper Flagg being maybe, just maybe, if they keep it up, truly the best player of the year race we've ever had between 2 people. Go read the court report and listen to yesterday's show. But this Pitino stuff and what St. John's is doing is entering that realm. Top 5 story in the sport. St. John's hasn't mattered in the month of March in 25 years, and it's going to matter this season. We have waited a long time, and I know this, what I'm about to say, can tend to be overused by commentators. I don't deny that. Sometimes it is not true. To me, this feels very true, and I won't deny the fact of where I live is influencing this, but Parrish doesn't. Although it feels like he lives where I live, he doesn't actually live where I live. He doesn't receive mail in New York City. St. John's being this good and mattering this much feels like it is boosting and uplifting the sport of college basketball, in addition to helping out the Big East and making the league feel even better, even more urgent. We'll obviously get to this on the Friday show, but St. John's plays at UConn Friday night. It is going to be a rock concert. That game is going to feel as urgent and great as any matchup, including all of the awesome ones we're getting in the SEC in the month of February. I mean, we are getting must-see appointment television in the sport of college basketball well in advance of the month of March. This has been an awesome season, and now we wanted to see how St. John's did in this kind of game. You know, had its first top 15 matchup in that building in forever. And yeah, it was a little ugly. Yeah, they were terrible from the free throw line. It wasn't cosmetically the most appealing thing out there, but St. John's gets the win. And in doing so, you mentioned they haven't won since 1992. Obviously, that's the case. They continue to put up these marks, though, and make these accomplishments and move down the road in ways that we haven't seen in decades. They've won 9 in a row in league play for the first time since the 84-85 team that made the Final Four and had Bill Wennington and Mark Jackson and Chris Mullen, obviously, the co-player of the year. Walter Berry was on that team. That was really the season that cemented the legacy of what the Big East could be and was, because keep in mind, at that point, the Big East was 6 years old, you know, and St. John's has not been a program that has been something to look forward to, that's been appointment television, and it's because they hired Rick Pitino, and it's not just Pitino, but come on now. We know if it wasn't Pitino running this program, that we would not be opening a show in the first week of February talking about a 20-3 team overall. It's incredible. They get this big win here. They're in first place in the Big East, and this team is just about at the point where you got to call them a Final Four contender. The defense is awesome. It's top 5 in the country. As I pointed out last night, it comes a year removed from Pitino just eviscerating his team's lack of defensive prowess and lateral quickness and overall athleticism. And then you see what they did last night against Marquette in a 70-64 win. Marquette finishes at 0.94 points per possession. Almost every St. John's game this season has held its opponent to under a point per possession. It's good stuff. Not even getting into what Kadary Richmond is now growing into. That's the, oh, by the way, look like Happy learned how to putt. That could be a thing that really elevates St. John's to true bona fide top 10 status.
No, he's playing as well, if not better, than anybody else in the Big East right now. And you're right. I do not get mail in New York City, but I do sometimes get Amazon packages.
There we go.
I've got an Amazon package shipped to the front desk a few times, and I do still have a residence in North Mississippi. But the truth is, I have spent more nights in this room, or at least in this hotel, in the year 2025 than I have spent in my own home. That's true. Okay. And you're right. You could feel it in the city. I don't want to overstate it. And I was walking down Broadway and a random Go Johnny's chant broke out. Nothing like that.
I hope that happened.
I mean, okay, it probably happened coming out of the Garden last night or going into the Garden last night, but it's not something I would expect to experience if I just went to get a cup of coffee this morning. But I work in New York, and I'm surrounded by New Yorkers, and these games are on in our studio. And as you know, there's 12 TVs in the bullpen that we're looking at, and one of them has volume, and it's typically going to be the game on CBS Sports Network because we're listening to our colleagues, but that's the halftime we're going to be doing. But every once in a while, we'll switch it up because it feels like something's big, because it feels like that's where we need to be focused, because that's what everybody wants to see and hear. And, St. John's being at this level does that nearly every time they're playing now. When Kadary Richmond makes a big shot, you can hear those yells from the control room because you've got producers and directors and everybody else in there. And yeah, they're doing their job, but they're also watching New York's basketball team. And that is the way St. John's has described itself and likes to see itself. And I don't know if it's always been true, but right now, in all seriousness, having spent more time here than I have at home, I can tell you that it is cool. And it feels big every time the Knicks are in Midtown Manhattan right now, and every time St. John's is in Midtown Manhattan right now. This is long been described as the greatest basketball city in the world, but it hadn't always had the greatest basketball teams. And right now it's got two really good ones, one at the professional level and one at the collegiate level.
That's a great point on the Knicks. They're obviously having a good run, and world's most famous arena. The Knicks forever have not, they've been better in recent seasons, Brunson and all that effect, but now they matter, and just generally Midtown Manhattan, that whole area right above Penn Station, it's really bumping. Kadary Richmond had 18 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists, a pair of steals last night. He's really starting to put it together. Previous game against Providence, he hit the winner. He had 24 in that one. Across his past 4 games, he's averaging about 20 points overall. Remember, R.J. Lewis has been the team's best player. Zuby Ejiofor has also been a double-double machine, and Pitino has found a way to really make this work. I go back to, it's not just that Richmond, if he really starts going and playing well, you've got Davon Smith, who was statistically, if you added up his combined points, assists, and rebounds last season at Utah, there was no one that matched his production in the entire transfer portal. And now he's a good player. He's sometimes can be a key player, but he hasn't even been a consistent starter so far this season. And just to have him as an, oh, by the way, there's a lot of promise here. I don't know if St. John's is going to win the Big East or not. Right now it sits at 11-1. Creighton is 9-2, so a game and a half behind. Creighton's got a game at Providence tonight. See if they can get the win there to keep pace. And then Creighton's going to host Marquette in a big one for both teams on Saturday. But St. John's is right now 2 games ahead of UConn. It's got to play UConn still twice this month here, so keep that in mind as well. Our buddy Jeff Borzello was in the building on Tuesday night, and he passed along the fact that there were "We Want UConn" chants ringing out from some corners of the Garden as the game started to filter out near the end. Just the fact that we even have that, it's cinematic. Real quick, I know we're focusing on St. John's. I just want to give a quick second on Marquette, which is now 18-5, has dropped 2 games in a row, sits at 9-3 in the league. It lost to UConn over the weekend, 77-69, and UConn really gave it to them here. This game was more of a battle. Again, it wasn't the most fun thing to watch because it just wasn't an up and down affair with guys hitting shots left and right. There were a lot of foul shots, a lot of missed foul shots, and because of that, there were a lot of fouls. Like in the final 5-6 minutes of the game, both teams were dealing with foul trouble overall. David Joplin did get hacked out of the game for Marquette. Chase Ross went for 16, but Cam Jones, he went for 15. And, I kind of expected him to have a better game than he did. Didn't wind up happening. And between that and losing Stevie Mitchell for a spell, who's their best defensive player, he only gets 2 in contribution there. Similar to Iowa State, I'm still I'm in on Marquette being in that 2 seed, 3 seed range, having the personnel, having the coaching, should get to the second weekend, should have a satisfying season. But upcoming is at Creighton. That one will be interesting because they got to win that to have any chance at finishing first in the Big East. They got to win it. Home to DePaul, home to Seton Hall, at Nova, home to Providence. They are going to turn, Marquette's going to be fine. Their record will be okay. They're still going to be a factor in the midst of all this, but they'll wrap their regular season at UConn and then home to St. John's. So we haven't heard the last from the Golden Eagles. It just, by nature of winning the game, St. John's is the bigger story. I know Marquette fans might be gripping just a little bit, but I think your team's going to be okay.
You mentioned earlier that this isn't all Rick Pitino having St. John's in this position, because it's never just one person, but it is obviously mostly him. And beyond that, St. John's decision to bring him back to Power Conference basketball. This is something you and I talked about for 6 years. The time where Rick was forced to resign. I know the way that is framed and termed was subsequently altered, but for all intents and purposes, another scandal came to the front door and they said, you can't keep running our program. And they pushed him out. And I understood why they had to do that. And I think Rick has said after the fact, he understood why they had to do that. It wasn't that he couldn't survive that scandal. It was just that scandal on top of the other one, on top of the other one. And it was like very much straw that broke the camel's back type of thing. So I understood why Louisville needed to do what it did, or I understood why Louisville decided to do what it did. I never understood why it took that long for somebody else to say, let's bring him back. Like the same thing Auburn did with Bruce Pearl, somebody should have done with Rick Pitino well before St. John's did it. And every Power Conference school that considered it and didn't do it, unless you've got a team about to do something it ain't done in 30 plus years, then you probably missed on that. The entire time Rick Pitino was exiled from Power Conference basketball, there were men making millions of dollars coaching Power Conference programs that had scandals on their Wikipedia page too. It just, the logic was always inconsistent. But I've give credit to St. John's for saying we'll be the ones that bring arguably the greatest college basketball coach of all time. We'll be the one that brings him out of Power Conference exile, and this is the result. You usually ask, so I'll go ahead and tell you, I got him 17th in the top 25 and one, and I'm sure a bunch of St. John's fans, just as soon as I tweet it, are going to call me an idiot. But here's the truth. The team looks great and is fun and awesome, and my favorite story, I just told you that. But the resume is still lacking a little bit. 2-3 in quadrant 1, 5-0 in quadrant 2. So 7-3 in the first 2 quadrants, but with only 2 quadrant 1 wins. The first was at Xavier early last month, and then the win over Marquette last night at MSG. Wins over currently ranked teams in the AP poll, 1, Marquette. Wins over top 40 KenPom teams, 1, Marquette. Computer numbers, 23rd in net, 16th at KenPom, 20th BPI, 20th KPI, 20th at Torvik. I don't say any of this to discount what's happening. It's just that if you're trying to figure out why I have him 17th or why Jerry Palm in his most recent bracket has him as an 8 seed, which feels low to me, but he does have him as an 8 seed. That's why the resume is still lacking. But buddy, they got an opportunity to get another big one this weekend, and we'll talk about it on Friday, so we don't need to do it here. But if you're looking for Friday night regular season or Saturday night or any night regular season basketball games, Rick Pitino, Dan Hurley, surging Louisville, UConn getting its best NBA prospect back, presumably in Gamble. I mean, it's hard to do better than that.
You had a little Freudian slip there. You just said surging Louisville. We remember the days well. Surging St. John's. A couple things. St. John's is number 9 in strength of record this morning. Wins above bubble, it's 19. That's the NCAA's wins above bubble, more resume stuff. And Torvik's wins above bubble. St. John's is 15. So yeah, 8 seed. Palm did it before the win last night, so he wouldn't have him as an 8 today, but that's too low overall. But the objective resume metrics are still pretty in on St. John's having a comfortable seed and should be moving on up. The poll question for today's live show on YouTube was, do you think St. John's will at least make the Elite 8? 57% say no, 43% say yes. We posed the question, I'll answer it. If you made me pick right now, I would say no, only because it's making it hard, but it would be, my mind is split about 57-43 right now. GP, we don't know what seed they're going to be. We don't know what awaits over the next 5 weeks, but St. John's, they're going to make an Elite 8 run, yes or no?
Certainly I can envision it very easily.
I lean no.
I just think statistically speaking, like every person that understands math would say you should say no. That's just, if you want to be on the right side of the bet, say no. So I would say no, but I'll root for it. I am rooting for it. I'm almost certainly I'll be there. The regional, in that if St. John's gets geographic preference, that's in Newark, so it's not at the Garden, which St. John's couldn't go if it was there. If it was Barclays, they could, but it's in Newark. And so if St. John's keeps this up and they play to their seed expectation and another team does as well, there is a chance that we could have Rick Pitino-led St. John's, a 3-wood away from its home base, playing in Newark in the second weekend of the tournament, and Duke with Cooper Flag could also be there as well. That could be quite the scene, but a lot has got to happen for us to get there. One last thing before we move on, I went over to evanmia.com to look at their game projections going forward, and this just to one more bullet point on how awesome UConn St. John's is going to be on Friday. Percentage to win the game, St. John's 50.3%, UConn 49.7. I mean, we're right there.
It's 50. I can't give St. John's the not that St. John's can't win Friday. It can. I can't give St. John's the even a 0.00001% edge in UConn when Liam McNeely fully expected to be back. I can't do it.
Take it up with Evan Mia then. It sounds like you got beef with evanmia.com then.
It sounds like me and the UConn staff might have beef with evanmia.com if St. John's is ever so slightly favored in Gamble on Friday.
Up next, it's time for the Stay or Hit segment brought to you by Chumba Casino. But first, let's get a quick word from our partners.
Find our way back home.
All right, now it's time for the Stay or Hit segment brought to you by Chumba Casino. Whether you're chilling at home or on the move, play for the chance to redeem some serious prizes with Chumba Casino. Norlander, today we're playing Stay or Hit National Coach of the Year candidates, and let's stay on topic. Let's start with Rick Pitino at St. John's, since that's where our focus has been. I know you would consider Rick Pitino as a National Coach of the Year candidate. If not, I'd have to physically assault you. So go ahead and explain to me. I would physically assault you.
You're not going to physically assault me. I feel like we have put 19 guys in the top 5, but I'm telling you this morning, Rick Pitino is one of the 5 best National Coach of the Year candidates.
I agree.
There's no argument against it.
I agree. But that's the nature of Coach of the Year, way more than Player of the Year. You can put a list of 5 together on February 5th, and by February 12th, you could sub out 3 of the names. It's just sort of the nature of the way the sport unfolds. So Rick Pitino as a Coach of the Year candidate. Let's play Stay or Hit. COY candidates. Do you want to stay on Rick Pitino as a Coach of the Year candidate, or hit and get Duke's Jon Scheyer
right away?
Yes.
I suggest you hit, sir.
I have to hit on Scheyer. Team has been better start to finish. Although, a reminder on St. John's and Pitino. They have 3 losses by 5 points combined, and one of those games was overtime. So it's narrow, but Duke has been the better team. Scheyer has a win over the best team in the country in Auburn, albeit it was at home. I've got to go Scheyer.
Do you want to stay on Jon Scheyer or hit and get Houston's Kelvin Sampson?
I'll stay.
Sampson's done a good job. I put up my Big 12 power rankings on Tuesday. Not if we have that. Flash that on the screen real quick here. See if GP disagrees or not. I went with Arizona number 1. Arizona went on to win at BYU. We'll get to Tuesday night's results in a second here. I've got Houston number 2. I'll stay with Shire over Kelvin Sampson. But real quick, do you agree with that? For everyone listening, I've got Arizona. This is a power ranking.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona 1, Houston 2, Texas Tech 3, Kansas 4, Iowa State 5, Baylor 6, BYU 7, West Virginia 8. Would you move any of those teams around, not as a resume ranking, as a power ranking right now?
As of just like right now, we're going to play a basketball game. Who you want on a neutral?
Yep. Who's feeling it? The past 2-3 weeks worth of results. Yeah.
I would have Houston ahead of everybody, and then I'd probably have I'd have Arizona and Texas Tech fighting for second and third.
Okay. Arizona and Texas Tech, by the way, face each other this weekend. That game will be in the final 4-1. What's our next hit or stay?
Do you want to stay on John Shire or hit and get Auburn's Bruce Pearl? BP.
I suggest you hit, sir.
I have to hit. He's coaching the number 1 team in the country in the toughest league maybe we've ever seen. I understand the head-to-head Shire has the advantage, but if the situation was flipped and Bruce Pearl got the benefit of playing Duke on his home floor, don't we think Auburn would have won that game? So all things considered, Auburn has the better record. I will take Bruce Pearl.
Last one. Do you want to stay on Bruce Pearl or hit and get Missouri's Dennis Gates?
I'll stay.
But Gates also top 5 right now, National Coach of the Year. I referenced this on our Tuesday show on CBS Sports Network. I've got more on Dennis Gates and what he's doing in today's court report. Don't want to spoil too much of it, but I will say this. Missouri went winless in league play last season. Since the NCAA tournament expanded in 1985, only twice has a team gone winless in a power conference and the next year made the NCAA tournament. What were the 2 other teams? You're going to have to read the court report to find out.
As you noted in the court report, and we talked about on CBS Sports Network on Tuesday, Duke and Auburn have separated from the pack, at least in the betting markets, to win the 2025 NCAA tournament. Similarly, Janai Broome and Cooper Flagg have separated from the pack in the National Player of the Year race. And right now, if I were submitting a ballot, I'm not saying they have separated from the pack, but if I were submitting a ballot right now, I think it would be Bruce Pearl and John Shire in some order at the top of it.
Yeah.
And I know some people are dismissive of just, well, they're ranked number 1 and number 2, but I tend to lean toward crediting excellence. And those 2 guys have been excellent running those basketball programs this year. First, getting the players into the program and then creating 2 of the best teams in the country, if not the 2 best teams in the country. That was the Stay or Hit segment brought to you by Chumba Casino. Ready to dive into some excitement? Chumba Casino is where it's at. It's free to play, so just jump right in and explore over hundreds of social casino-style games with fresh new releases every week. Play anytime, anywhere, and enjoy free daily login bonuses and an amazing welcome offer. Okay, let's do the Wednesday whip around, and let's take it conference by conference, if you don't mind. Let's start in the Big Ten, because if you're trying to figure out why I was up all night, part of it was UCLA and Michigan State were playing out in Los Angeles, and that's not really the latest game of the night, but it was a late game in Los Angeles. UCLA 63, Michigan State 61. 2 straight losses for the Spartans and for UCLA after seeing the Statue of Liberty twice and the Capitol once, and really being upset about that. Mick Cronin's team has flipped it around, and again, 6-game winning streak. I've got them back in the top 25-1 as of Wednesday morning.
Yeah, deservedly so. St. John's Marquette was an ugly affair. This one had some ugliness to it as well. UCLA getting its 6th win in a row after that 4-game skid, keeping Mick Cronin the hell away from the Statue of Liberty, and he's the best coach in UCLA history. I think that's right. A lesson for all of us to learn here in the first week of February. The 63-61 actually brought UCLA's points per game average down. They're averaging 75.4 now, which is still plenty healthy. It's the best offense points per game that Cronin's had since he's been at UCLA. And at home, this is a really good team. I mean, they're 12-1. The only loss came to the other team from Michigan when the Wolverines beat them last month. How about this? UCLA last season was 0-5 against ranked competition. Now 5-1 this season, playing teams with the number next to its name. That's pretty damn impressive. MSU is now 0-2 all time playing in Pauley. Their only other meeting happened in 03. Nada, do you have this? I'll send it to you right now. In addition to the game, which was really, really cool. This game was my number 2 watch behind Johnny's Golden Eagles on Tuesday night. The fact that we got, and I didn't even think about, like, of course it would make sense that these two guys would be in the building, but two of the greatest players in history that were teammates, oh, by the way, in that city, and then happened to be alumni. And it was only because of, here's a good thing with conference realignment, what it does. The fact that we had Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in the building together, laughing with each other at Pauley Pavilion. Just one of the cool moments of the week. They know each other well, probably see each other often, but we don't normally see them in this kind of setting because UCLA and Michigan State almost never, ever play. So that I thought that was, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the picture there, both of them smiling. I thought that was really awesome.
Do you think the young people, the players, understood who was watching them play basketball last night?
Ooh, good question. Wouldn't surprise me whatsoever. Well, like, to a certain extent, like, I'm sure Kareem's around enough where you would think that Cronin and his staff have really expressed to the UCLA guys who Kareem was. And Magic Johnson with him, I saw him in Maui, like, he was there to see them. So to a certain extent, yes, but given how young they are, there's a real chance they don't really have a perception of the fact that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has the case as the best basketball career of all time.
Yes.
People say Jordan or LeBron for the best player. The best career, it is not arguable, is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He has the best career. If you want to say Russell because of the NBA championships, I'm willing to hear you, but you take everything into account. That dude, I have maintained forever, he is actually underrated. And then Magic Johnson, he is one of the 5 players that truly changed the game of basketball by playing point guard at 6'9", and what he was able to do there, winning the national title. That game, between him and Larry Bird, is still the most watched college basketball game ever. So I don't think they truly understand just the amount of greatness that they were in the presence of. But I tell you what, I took stock of it, and I thought that was really awesome that both men made sure to be in the building and be with each other on Tuesday night.
I thought it was awesome too. I have a 21-year-old, my oldest son. He's not a basketball player or even a basketball fan, but he's 21 years old, and I don't know that he would have a grasp for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Magic Johnson. I don't know if that would register with him at all. To your point about the GOAT conversation, had Kareem on radio one time, and I asked him, this is when it felt like every morning you'd turn on television and they were arguing about Jordan or LeBron. And I had Kareem on in this time. And I said, do you ever, like, when you're hearing people have these debates, these intense debates about Jordan and LeBron, do you ever wonder, like, why am I not a part of this? And he said, yes.
Good.
Because if you go read his Wikipedia page, there's an incredible case that the greatest basketball player of all time is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Folks, you want to know about the first prospect that, like, really changed what basketball recruiting was? It was Lou Alcindor.
Yeah.
And him going from New York City area cross country to play for UCLA, and many other players were responsible for what UCLA did in dynastic fashion under John Wooden, but Alcindor was the pillar. He's the best college basketball player of all time. And then he went on to be, until LeBron broke the record, the leading scorer in NBA history. He was amazing with the Bucks. He was Luka Doncic way before Luka Doncic in terms of going to the Lakers and basically starting that lineage of LA being able to bring in big time stars there. So we're getting a little bit off the beaten path, but I wanted to at least bring it up because he's to me, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is one of the most significant and important and amazing figures in American sports history. Like, I put him in the top 5 all time. We consider everything that's been associated with him. I love me some Veronica Mars. Dude wrote an episode of Veronica Mars, in addition to being an incredible active person in human rights activism, social justice, everything tied to that. He's also an amazing writer.
I was about to say, incredible columnist.
He's amazing. And meanwhile, not a sent in the private chat. These kids probably knew Magic Johnson as the dude who tweets obvious stuff from Twitter.
I will say, several years back, I was, I think, on TV and asked to do a top 5 point guards of all time list. And I probably had Magic Johnson 1, but I certainly had him high. And I got a text message from a college basketball coach, a younger one. And he was like, really, Magic Johnson? Like, do you really think Magic Johnson's the best point guard of all time? And I was like, you're acting like that's a crazy thing to say. Like that's universally accepted. I thought he was like, man, I just don't get it.
Oh my God.
Okay. No. So fast forward like a month. And I just randomly get a text message from the same coach. And it's like, hey, been watching film. I was wrong, man. That dude was amazing.
Let me dive into the archives.
Yes. It was like, holy God, I didn't know what I was talking about. This guy's incredible. So they were both at Pauley last night, and it was a cool scene. I'm glad you brought it up. One last thing in the Big Ten. Wisconsin 76, Indiana 64, and that don't even tell the story. What are we going to do about my Hoosiers?
Now they're you.
Yeah, I feel bad for them. I just want to grab them and hold them. I want to hold the state of Indiana. I feel bad for them, man. I know this must be hard for them.
I'm not letting us get out of the Big Ten segment without talking to Braden Smith real quick, though. But listen, this is not surprising at all. We gave you the heads up 2.5 weeks ago. Not that Indiana fans weren't bracing for this. When you looked at the schedule, they were staring down a potential 1-6 streak, a 7-game losing streak, and it's all coming to bear. I was watching, Marquette St. John's and other stuff, and so that game was on Peacock. I always put the Peacock game on the iPad because that's where I'm dialed into it. So I bring it up, and it's 19-2. The second it comes onto my screen, I'm like, we're already doing this. It's 19-2, and then it got to 29-7 or whatever. I know Wisconsin fans are aware of this, and Indiana fans are aware of this, but everyone else might not be. Wisconsin has won 22 games in a row at home against Indiana. The last time Indiana beat Wisconsin was in 1998. The Kohl Center was all of 15 minutes old at that point. Bob Knight was still at the university. That's how long it's been since IU went up to Madison and pulled out a win. Additionally, Indiana is now 1-12 in its last 13 games on the road against ranked opponents. It's more of the same. What do you want from me? A coaching change is imminent.
I will give Strongjaw credit. When you took a few weekends ago, and he was with me, he sort of just said, and I don't know if they'll win another game. And I was like, what? And it just sort of caught me because I had never heard somebody say that yet about them. It just seemed
it's your anti-UConn take. Remember when you said UConn was never going to lose another game?
Well, I was just trying to believe in the greatest effing coach in the sport. What do you want me to do? I put my belief in the greatest coach in the effing sport. If that's the allegation, if that's the charge, I plead guilty.
Okay, you're guilty as charged.
I'm guilty as charged. I put my faith.
They're a good team, but they have lost games. I told you it was going to happen.
I put my faith in the greatest coach in the effing sport. If that's the charge, I plead guilty. But Strongjaw, Calhoun, he was like, I don't know if Indiana's going to win a game the rest of the season. And I was like, what? And then I went and looked at it. I was like, whoa, they might not. And now here we are. It's more of the same. And it seems like there will be a coaching change pretty soon. Braden Smith, he was awesome last night.
Yeah, Braden Smith just, they played at Iowa. Iowa just lost Owen Freeman, who's the team's leading scorer and rebounder. He's done for the year because of the right hand injury. Iowa is at home. Purdue goes in. They win. Braden Smith, he had 31 points. He's averaging 26 in his last, 3 games or so. Iowa can't beat ranked teams at home anymore. They've lost 5 in a row against top 10 teams. But Braden Smith, credit to our CBS Sports Research Department. This is a good note here. We're now into February, but Braden Smith in January had 158 points, 82 assists, and 28 rebounds over 9 games in January. He was the first Division I player this century to have at least 150 points, 80 assists, and 25 steals. Sorry, the 28 was not rebounds; it was steals. He's the only guy to do that in the past 25 years. Purdue won. They pulled away with some ease, and Purdue is a top 10 team. They're 18-5 after the 90-81 win. Braden Smith is playing himself into first-team All-American status as well, and so Purdue could have a situation where it has a first-team All-American 3 consecutive seasons and not having the same player. That's the kind of thing that you normally get out of a blue blood program. Purdue is an amazing program, but it wouldn't be defined in that blue blood term. Good on Braden Smith. Oh, by the way, Trey Kaufman-Renn is not that far behind Braden Smith in the Ken Pom Player of the Year algorithm. Right now, this morning, it's flagged, then broomed, then there's a huge gap. Okay. Then it's Dickinson. Smith is 4, Cam Jones at Marquette is 5, Trey Kaufman-Renn at Purdue is 6.
Yeah, based on where we're at right now, it appears this will be true. Purdue will have lost the 2-time National Player of the Year, and in the next season, got two more All-Americans.
I know. I mean, just Painter's one hell of a coach, man. Well, what do you want from me? Big Ten race is really good. Michigan State losing at UCLA thickened it a little bit. A quick refresh here on Wednesday morning. If you're unaware, Purdue is now 10-2. Michigan State is 9-2. Michigan is 8-2. And then you've got the gap. Wisconsin, UCLA, Maryland all have 4 losses. And then from there on out, it's 5, 6, 7 on down the road.
Let's go to the SEC. Can I take you to my home state? Final score, Ole Miss, 98, Kentucky, 84, and that one was also way worse than that. I believe Ole Miss was up by 27 at one point, or it was a big gap. What's the story? UK has now lost 4-5, or Chris Beard in year 2 at Ole Miss has got that program in position to maybe be a top 4 seed in the NCAA tournament.
It's the former, not the latter, in particular, because I point this out in today's court report near my notes and nuggets section at the end. I thought this was critical for the Rebels to win because they had dropped 4 of 5. And then go take a look at the schedule. 4 of the next 5 are on the road, so Ole Miss is going to take more losses. Now, the next 2 are easier opponents. They're at LSU and at South Carolina, but they're still road games. Home to Mississippi State, at Vanderbilt, at Auburn. So 17-6, they stopped the bleeding, and that was good. The Kentucky stuff is the story here. You still got Mark Pope, National Coach of the Year?
I would not, and that's how quickly this stuff can change. Literally a week ago, I would have, and right now, I don't think I'd have him in my top 3.
Let me look at. I'm going to pull this up real quick right now. So Kentucky was 14-3 on January 17th. It lost at home to Bama on January 18th. I'm going to, you know what I'm going to do?
No, I got you.
I'm going to sort the data in real time.
Already done it. Already done it.
January 18th.
Yes, I've done it. I've done this exercise.
Look at us finishing each other's sandwiches.
Okay,
all right.
This is wild. They're number 1 in offensive efficiency in this stretch, even while going 1-4. They're
still
in a 5-game stretch. They're number 1 in offensive efficiency. And in defensive efficiency, they are 246 in the country. They can't guard anybody. Some of it is Lamont Butler has missed the past 3 games, and he's maybe your best defensive player. But it ain't all that. They are really getting exposed on the defensive end of the court. And what those numbers show you is that they can be the best offensively, but they ain't so great offensively that they can beat good teams playing defense like this.
I tell you what, Mississippi put up 1.38 points per possession in this game. Kentucky forced a single turnover. It's atrocious. If you go back, credits to Rush the Court for digging this up. I saw this last night. This was before this game was over. So if you go back to Kentucky's splitting in its stats in league play versus the rest of the season, dude, in league play nationally, if you just do what they've done in league, they are 343rd in adjusted defensive efficiency versus what they've done. They are so far and away the worst defense in the conference. It's not, dude, it's not even remotely close. They're terrible on defensive rebounding. They're terrible at turnover rate. It is glaring. It is worse than this was a season ago under John Calipari. This has reached the point where I don't know if I ever truly talked myself into Kentucky as a national title contender, but I was definitely on the Kentucky as a Final Four contender. And now and they need Butler back. He's not their only good defensive player. Let's be clear about this. Let's not, they've got other guys who are capable on that end of the floor. It's just Butler is the best on the perimeter. He's the best man-to-man guy, and they need him. Now, if he was available for this entire stretch, maybe they would have flipped one loss into a win, but I think the issues are broader and bigger than just that overall. So when they get him back, perhaps they can switch this. But I'll tell you, the situation with Kentucky now, which is 4-5 in a tough SEC, has flipped from Final Four contender to this team is so vulnerable right now on defense that if they don't fix it, they're going to be a first-round upset victim. And doesn't that sound familiar in Lexington? So they have a reprieve allegedly coming up, home against South Carolina. Then they're home against Tennessee, at Texas, home to Vandy. It's the SEC. Most of these games are going to be grinds, and they got to fix it defensively. But, that was a 98-84 game. That was not that close. Ole Miss had never put up that many points on Kentucky in the program's history, man. And it was the second biggest margin of victory for Ole Miss against UK in the history of that in that series. Kentucky had been 14-1 against Mississippi in this past 15 games. So credit to the Rebels for getting a win. That's a good team that's had a really tough schedule, and more is coming. So expect some losses, but it's a team that could be a 5 seed, a 6 seed, a 7 seed in the tournament. Don't know what it's going to be, but it will have gone through the rigors. And I think once it gets into the tournament, it could be a team that's in a situation that benefits once it gets a change of scenery. But quite clearly, Kentucky's free fall, can we call it that? Because defensively, it lines up to that, man. I mean, they got to fix something and at least be passable. They're not even passable on defense right now.
We got a shot clock ticking. So I don't know what there is new to say about Auburn, but it should be noted, just for the record, that the number one team in the country did get another blowout victory last night over a team that was ranked in the AP poll earlier this season, 98-70. They knocked out Oklahoma. It wasn't Janai Broom's best game of the season, but he had another quality game, and it's just another easy win. Like, don't ever let this get lost, and it's why I would probably vote Bruce Pearl Coach of the Year right now. It's not only that he's got the number one team in the country, they are undefeated in the best conference in the country, and as we've said many times, a conference that could go down in history as the best conference we've ever seen. And Auburn is having zero issues in it. I still expect them to lose at some point, but I've been saying that for like a month and it hasn't happened yet. So just awesome stuff again. In the Big 12, Arizona 85, BYU 74. That was a closer game than maybe that score indicates, and then Arizona pulled away. But Tommy Lloyd's got this thing. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. If you were power ranking the Big 12, you would have this Arizona team that started 4-5. You would now have them power ranked as the best team in the Big 12.
Yeah, and the gap, Arizona, Houston, Texas Tech, they're all pretty close together, frankly, and Texas Tech won as well. So let's talk both these. Texas Tech was able to run away from Arizona. Arizona and Texas Tech are combined 21-2 in their last 23 games. I watched both these games start to finish. Henry Visar he is one heck of a big for Zona, and he came up huge. They loved to him. They had a great, I don't know if they did this improv or if it was a design play, but they had a lob oop in this one in the second half, which really hammered home Arizona on its route to victory. That was really impressive. Love went for 18 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, no fouls. 2 turnovers, 2 steals. He had himself another nice game. Jaden Bradley played well as well. BYU is in a spot where it wasn't in the tournament heading into last night. I actually thought, in the here and now, if BYU had been able to win that game on its home floor to get to what would have been a 16-6 record, I think Cougars would have been in, Dayton or just narrowly edging out of that at that point. But they don't get it. They still got time. They've got room on the schedule to get it done. But that was, continuing Arizona's resurgence. You and I both agreed, 8 weeks ago, that was the most disappointing team in the country, rightfully so. It was 4-5, and since then it's 12-1, folks. So really impressive for Zona. And then on the Texas Tech end, Red Raiders, your fans, your team is featured. It's the item number 2 in today's court report. I talk with Grant McCaslin, get into some of the Houston stuff and this, what he's done there, his philosophy. He had a great quote with me about really establishing interpersonal relationships, and you can't get into a mode where you're running your program as if all the guys you're overseeing, the players, they're going to be robots and just automatically going to do this, and this. You got to treat everyone differently, and only through that trust and that connection can you build something. And when you really listen to what he's saying, it makes a lot of sense, and it's displaying itself here. Texas Tech, if you didn't know, is 9-2 in the Big 12. It's been in this league since 1996. It's never had a better start through 11 games than this season's team right here. They had a number of huge shots in big moments on Tuesday night at home against Baylor. My subhead in the court report is Texas Tech is too good to be labeled a Final Four sleeper. They're number 9 in KenPom. They have 1 loss in the year 2025. Defensive efficiency, you sort the data at Torvik, you go back over the past 6 weeks, a top 5 defense in the country. Their big bugaboo last season was that they didn't have a good defense whatsoever. Do you agree with me? Texas Tech, too good to truly be considered a Final Four sleeper? Yeah,
they're a team that has better computer numbers than resume at this point, but I mean, just put your eyes on the games. Like, they look the part. And I'm going to Lubbock next week for the second time in my life, and looking forward to it. It'll be Arizona State at Texas Tech on CBS Sports Network next Wednesday night. So I'll be there for that. And looking forward to being there because, yes, this is one of the best teams in the country. And it's been trending in that direction for several weeks now. Look ahead before we get out of here to the next couple of nights. What's going on Wednesday night? What's going on Thursday night? First, though, let's get one more quick word from our partners.
One of golf's elite courses, Quail Hollow, hosts the game's top players at the PGA Championship this May on CBS.
On Wednesday night, we got a doubleheader on CBS Sports Network. 7 Eastern, Cincinnati at UCF, followed at 9 Eastern by Villanova at DePaul. Inside College basketball will wrap up the night. Elsewhere, Oregon at number 24, Michigan. Number 2, Duke at Syracuse. Number 15, Missouri at number 4, Tennessee. Number 23, Illinois at Rutgers with 3 potential top 5 picks on the court. That one should be fun, right?
Yeah, I mean, if Rutgers is well outside the tournament conversation, we've covered that plenty. Illinois, Underwood did the tweak with his roster starting lineup there against Ohio State. So now that worked out. They were able to pull away on Sunday. I know we didn't get to that game too much on the Sunday pod, but they were able to get a win, and now they're on the road here. We'll see if Illinois can show up and be the team that we think it can be. But yeah, if you're watching that game, it's to see what Yakashonis does for Illinois, and then Bailey and Dylan Harper, if Harper plays.
Right.
He's missed some recent time there. What he can do. Creighton at Providence is an 8:30 tip on Wednesday, and Creighton has been better than people have been talking about, and I'll include the pod here. They have 1 loss since December 21st. They're 9-2 in the league. I mentioned earlier on the show that they're only a game and a half behind St. John's. So, you got to go on the road, play Providence. That's a big game for Creighton's hope to be able to be the 1 seed in the Big East tournament there. If you lose that one, it might be tough to overcome given everything that's still awaiting on the schedule, but I keep an eye on that. Oregon lost after we finished the pod on Sunday at home to Nebraska. So they pulled a reverse Pinnacle Bank, did the Cornhuskers. And now Oregon has lost 4 of 5. And now it's at Michigan Wednesday and then at Sparty on Saturday. So that's a pretty big game for the Ducks. Meantime, Michigan has won 3 of its past 4, still registers as a top 25 team. 6:30 tip on Big Ten Network on Wednesday. I'm intrigued by that. I think Mizzou at Tennessee is the game of the night, clearly, though. 7 o'clock tip. We talked about Dennis Gates, what he's done. It's a tough ask to go into Tennessee and get a win. So, if they do it, listen, we've seen Kentucky do it. So it wouldn't be stunning. But Tennessee has, played its way after the slump, the win over Florida over the weekend. Now Tennessee is number 4 at Ken Pom. The defense is tremendous. We'll see about Ziegler and if he's going to play. If he doesn't, Mizzou's going to have a decent chance there. But yeah, overall, it's a solid Wednesday night in college hoops.
Yeah, Wednesday night, good schedule. Thursday night, not so much. Number 18, Maryland is at Ohio State. Outside of that, Loyola Marymount at Gonzaga, St. Mary's at San Francisco. So if you got to catch up on season 1 of Landman, streaming now on Paramount Plus, Thursday might be a decent time to do that. I've obviously already wrapped it up, but if you haven't, Thursday night.
I got so much hoops. I don't have as much. I don't have as much time. I recently finished season 1 of Silo, so that was on Apple Plus. That was a solid job. But I'm going to I'll get to Landman. That's just going to be after the season is done. That's all.
It's streaming now on Paramount Plus.
Yeah. Okay.
Shouts to Devin Downey.
That's a show.
Yeah, I think so. I've had enough of this show. Shouts to Devin Downey.
Oh, I have one bit of news, I guess.
Okay, that's fine.
It's just small, but I figured we should at least mention it. This was expected, but Tucker DeVries is going to have season-ending surgery for West Virginia. So he's not coming back. West Virginia's, into that bubble territory. I talked to Darren DeVries earlier this week. Fully expects Tucker to get his medical red shirt, so his college career is not over. And we should see him suit up for his dad next season. So that's at least, I guess that's the one note there. I know you want to go do your other show, but this was
he's a legitimate, like, All-American candidate when healthy type of player. And that's unfortunate for him. But if you're looking for a silver lining type of thing, like, it happened when it happened, and he should be able to get the medical red shirt. Sometimes players with no additional years of eligibility get injured too deep into the season, and it's just over. It's just like you woke up this morning and you thought you had 3 weeks left in your college basketball season, and then it's just over.
This happened to Brooks Barnheiser.
Yes.
Thing he can't overcome it. His college career is done, and as a result, like, sorry, but like with him, like it will be shocking if Northwestern can turn this around and make the tournament. So that's what you don't want. At least Tucker got it done early enough where he qualifies for the red shirt and he should be back next year.
Yeah, I just have always thought that must be strange to just have it abruptly end like that. Like you have no time to prepare for today's my last game. It's just over. So if you're looking for a positive here, Tucker didn't get hurt injured at a time where his college career is over. He'll hopefully go through the procedure, rehab, and be healthy as ever and better than ever real soon. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Terry Teagle, legend. Huck Larnell. Thank you guys for watching, listening to Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you're not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, Apple, Spotify. There's more of us than there are of them. That should be reflected in the comments. So do that, and I'll talk to you. We'll both talk to you.
It's just you?
No, I'm going to unmute your mic. I'm going to let you talk to. We'll both talk to you.
We'll try and get Sam Vecini on the next one, by the way.
I'm so confused about where I'm talking at this point. I don't know what I'm saying half the time. We will both talk to you again real soon. Till then,